Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar, Optimize Your Prefab Shop Best Practices for Spooling. This webinar will be led today by Evolve's VP of Product, Clay Freeman. He's going to be giving an overview of the Evolve Shop product, and then we'll dive into how you can ensure a successful spooling process in your shop. Please go ahead and submit your questions using the Q&A function. We may have a little bit of time at the end here to get to them, and if not, we'll try to follow up with you after the webinar via email. This webinar is being recorded and we'll forward the recording to all registrants. You can also find more webinar recordings on the Evolve YouTube channel. And so with that, I am handing it over to Clay to get us started today.
Thanks, Marina. As Marina said, we'll talk a little bit about a general update on the product and go specifically into the spooling processes that we see our customers that are in production using. Some of the things we've learned from that and some of the things we've done to the product to make that a bit easier. Before we get into that, I wanted to share with everyone some of the motivations that we're seeing from most of our customers that have deployed Shop and Field so far. The most common thing that we hear is really the communication between the field and the shop. So quite often that involves VDC or pre-con, but always involves the field and the shop communication. There's so many phone calls going on, multiple spreadsheets being used to track things. It's just really hard to stay on top of this, is what we're hearing from a lot of shop foremen, shop managers, and field teams as well. Scalability is one of the other things that we hear quite often. We hear that the shop team is being asked to expand and do more offsite fabrication. And we hear that they're able to get by today, but if they try to increase 15 or 20 or 30%, the wheels would come off the bus. And so they need better systems than just spreadsheets, emails, and phone calls to really handle increasing the volume of work. Standardizing a kit of parts is another one. The customers that have standardized the most are operating at a higher level of efficiency. They're just making more money off of their parts because they have really good processes on how to build those standardized kit of parts. But you've got to get the field team and the shop team and all the personnel up to speed on how to work with those. And so they like our parts catalog concept in order to do that. Transparency is a common one, and it's not just the transparency between the field and the shop in the communication triangle that you see above. We're hearing a lot of shop managers say that their executives are asking them to find a system like this to provide transparency to the executive team as well. So it's the field team, it's pre-con, VDC, it's the shop team and the management team throughout the whole organization that wants to have better visibility into how things are going, what the status of things are. They want to be able to pull it up and get the details on what's going on at their fingertips, as opposed to having to chase somebody down all the time. And then another very popular one that we hear a lot is time tracking and time analysis. Not just the status of where things are, it's how much time are we spending doing these particular types of assemblies. How much time are we spending doing this type of task every month? Is it justified to add more people or a better piece of equipment in order to work more effectively? So just having a good system for capturing that data and being able to report on it in different ways, run different types of analysis is another really popular thing. We hear other things as well, but these are the top 5 reasons that we've been hearing from customers. Another thing that I just wanted to remind everybody is we have really focused a lot on ease of use and a very smooth onboarding process. I'm going to talk a bit about our learning management system later on in the session today, but we're averaging around 5 to 6 hours for a full onboarding process. So we do a presentation in the morning when we're onboarding a customer just to get everybody on the same page, and then it takes about an hour to get a shop set up and ready to work. And then it only takes about 20 minutes with a field team to be able to issue work requests, another hour with the shop team on how to plan and manage those. Most often by the early afternoon on the first day, you're in production on a couple of different projects, and then many customers start expanding project by project after that. The cost again is $50 a user per month. So it's for what we're hearing most of the time is if people are saving just 15 minutes a week, they're getting a good payoff on that. Now, of course, we hope that they're saving a lot more than that, and we think they are. They think they are. We're working on how to put metrics against that, but it's a pretty small amount of time. If you imagine a few drop balls that had didn't occur because somebody didn't forget to update a spreadsheet because the system is tracking everything automatically. A few phone calls that don't have to happen because the information is at people's fingertips in the system. It's pretty easy to save more time than that. If I jump into the product, here we are in the field module, and I want to show how we issue a work request for spools. And there's several different processes that we see different customers use, but just to review the system here, we are in the field module. I have a project open. The two core concepts in our system is projects and facilities. The shop people are in a facility context. The project team is in a project context. And I can see from a project team point of view, all the work requests that I have active right now. I can see the status for each one and which facility. This particular company that we're working on here has two different facilities. It has a main facility, which is where the electrical stuff is being fabricated. We also have a sheet metal facility where some things are being sent as well. So this is a multi-trade example. And we see the days remaining to get this work done. We've got a couple of them that are terribly late. This is just old demo data, but it is sorting by how much time we have to get this stuff done. And of course, if there's attachments that provide additional details on these work requests, I can just pull those up right from here. And then the final thing that some of our users are just getting used to, being able to access the details of the data via our properties panel. So I can jump around here. If I'm a field team and I want to update a need by date, maybe this is not needed on May the 10th anymore. We're well past that anyway. I can just update the information inside of the interface we have here. I can add attachments. I can add URLs that link to, like if the data is stored in Bluebeam or Autodesk, I can add a hyperlink to it right here. Or I can actually attach the file and it will upload into the system. Either way. We do have customers starting to use the hyperlink option a lot. One of the cool things about that is if you're doing markups on top of these drawings, it'll treat it as an attachment. I can open it up from the paperclip here, but it'll open up in whatever system you're using to store those drawings and to track the markups that are on top of them. So an easy way to keep live markups going with that attached data. Now to create one of these, I'll just pick the plus symbol here. I'll choose what facility I'm going to send this to. This will be duct spools or pipe spools in this example. So I'll pick the duct facility. We'll set a need by date of the 23rd, and I'll say that this is the 4th floor, zone C spools in this case. Now we have quite a few customers that are just entering the spool details right from here. So it could be spool 3, 5 through 7 and 9 is what's being requested, and that's all they do. For the customers that are keeping it light on the field team, they're only putting the spool IDs in the description. In other cases, they're going into the parts catalog, pulling up a spool template, whether it's different types of duct, insulation or non-insulation. They're adding the system in directly from there. I'm going to do this a little bit later, so we're going to use the process of keeping it easy on the field team and letting the shop team do all the planning. But sometimes we see more planning on the field side less work on the shop side. Either one of those are supported. These templates here are standard workflows. My standard workflows for different types of duct. In this case, I could have standard workflows for pipe as well. And all of the bill of process, all the steps that are required to execute in the shop come along with these standard spool templates. You make your own. You can edit these. I will show you how to do that a little bit later on in the session. Sometimes when we're creating these work requests, let's see, which one am I creating here? This is the third floor duct spools. You might also need to pull up the spool map in order to know which spools that you want. And we've got a new widget that we're just adding that makes it really easy to switch the views. This is a single pane view that only shows work requests, but I can jump to a 2-pane view that shows the work requests and the drawing register. So I'm seeing the same details that I saw previously on the right, just in a little bit smaller format. And on the left, I have the drawing register for this project. A new feature that we've recently added is from the drawing register, we can just directly open these in the viewer and then choose which spools we want from there. So I can add a new work request. I can just type in the spool IDs that I want straight from the viewer without having to load up any other system. So much easier than what it was previously. Let's see, where did we put that? That was what we just created here. When the field team is ready, we can execute that. Let's see, here's one that is ready to execute. I'll just hit submit, and that's going to send this work request to the shop team. So now we'll see that my status is updated. It was in draft. By the way, a lot of customers have pre-con or VDC preloading a lot of the work requests. They already know what spools are going to exist. They know the locations and the zones for the project. So they can preload these work requests, leave them in the draft status, and then the field team can just grab the properties, change the need by date later on in the project, and then submit that work request. We've now submitted this one, so it has changed from draft status to submitted. And if I change my hat, I'm going to change my hat to the shop foreman, and we'll jump over to the shop module, and I'll open up that facility that we looked at earlier. Similar view than what I had before, but it's a little bit different. So here we see the status values and all of the work requests again, but these are only the work requests that have been sent to this particular facility that I have open now. And it's work requests from many different projects. If you're in a project, you see all of the work requests for the project, regardless of the facility. If you're in a facility, you see all of the work requests for that facility, regardless of what the project is, either way. So I see the new one that just got submitted here. I can open that up and get some details. I can pull the details again right from properties. We can see what is being requested as part of this. I want these spools here. And if I pull this up, now I need to create a bill of process for how this is going to route through my shop. And the way I'll do that is I could create it manually, but I've already got those spool templates that we looked at earlier. And I could say, well, this is duct rectangular, no insulation. I'm going to insert that into the system. Now, the quantities is all up to how you want to track your production. If you want to track by the number of spools, I could put in 5 and just track by the spools, but I could put the count of the items that are in the spool or the weight for the items that are in the spool. Best practice is to include the weight details or the count details in the spool drawings, and so that's easy for the team to extract. Okay, so now we have a template in there, and we've set a weight. We're going to rename that so it's no longer a parts catalog item. Now it's a custom item for this project. If I expand that, you'll notice the bill of process and all of the predecessors. So the complete workflow for how this needs to route through the shop is automatically baked into that spool template that we added. The next step is we've got to load some drawings or assign some drawings to these tasks so the team will know how to execute that work. And if I go to work planning, open up that drawing register that we saw earlier, remember I'm in the facilities context now, but even while I stay in the facility context, if a work request has been sent to me from the hospital project, it's going to show up on my list. I can access this project now. Otherwise, I wouldn't have access to it. But since it has been assigned to me, I can now pull up the drawing register. I can see the drawings that are associated with this, and I can start to map them to this new work request that I've just approved. Okay, let's see, which was that? Fourth floor right here. We'll open that up. Now, there's a couple of different options on how I can map a drawing to it. Some of these are new as well. Spool drawings tend to be useful for pretty much every step in the bill of process. And previously, you had to drag and drop it onto each individual step manually. But now you can just grab one of these. Let's grab this spool drawing, and I can drop it onto the assembly itself. By the way, we also support multi-page PDFs. So I could drop multiple sheets onto this, or I could have a single sheet that had all of the spool drawings in it, single PDF that had all of those spool sheets in it. I could drop that onto that assembly. Now, if it was ductwork, let's see, do I have any other types of details here? Hold on, let me look. Oh, by the way, we've added folders. That's another new thing that's come out in the last few weeks. So open up a folder, and I've got an MAJ file, and I know that that MAJ file is going to be needed for the nesting step only. So I'm not going to drop it onto the top. I'm going to drop it onto the nest bill of process step only, and then that will come along with that. Okay, so at some point, whenever we decide we're ready to commit, just by opening it, we've changed the status to pending. So the field team knows that I'm looking at this. When I hit approve, the status has now been set to approved. The field team has got an email indicating first that I was looking at it, it was pending. Then they get another email indicating that it's been approved. So they're staying informed all along. They can also look at that work request table, and they can see the status of the work request in there. Once I have approved this, a work order has been automatically created. So I jump to the work order interface, and it's going to show me all of the work orders for the project. Here's this new one that we just started. Before I pull this up, let me show you two different viewing modes. There's the table mode or the list view that we're looking at right here. And there's also a Kanban board that allows me to take a look at it by status value in a Kanban format. And if I want to change the priority for work, I can just drag these cards around. In every bill of process step for all the assemblies inside of that work order, the priority would be bumped up in the work cell queues for the entire team. So a very easy way as a shop manager, shop foreman, for me to see what's going on with all my work orders and change the priority of work to fit whatever the company needs at that time. Okay, let's go back to the table view. We could open up the details and see more information about this. I can double check to see that my bill of process is there. This is actually one that I've already started. We can see that all of the sheets are there, and then we can release this to fabrication. Once it's released, the status is going to update to not started until the first task has been started. I see nesting has already been completed for this one, and the status at the coil line is it is in progress, but the plasma table step has not yet started. If I jump to the work cell view, this shows me all of the individual tasks. What I looked at a minute ago was the work orders, my list of work orders. Now I'm looking at the task for each individual work cell. And I can see that in a Kanban view as well. We've recently made some good improvements to the performance of this, so it can load up hundreds of tasks in just a few seconds now. Here we see the work cells that I have out on my shop floor, and I see the backlog of work for every work cell. You'll notice that some of these are grayed out, and it's grayed out because there is a predecessor step that is not yet done. We've added some new improvements to this as well. So if you want to know, it's like, well, they're going to be done with this in the bend and seam work cell. They're going to be done with this really soon. What's coming up next is blocked because there's a predecessor that is not done yet. And if you want to know more about that, you can just follow the hyperlink, jump over to that work cell, see my bill of process step. Okay, the nesting has been started, but the cutting has not started on either the plasma table or the coil line. I need to go look at that work cell and maybe bump the priority of this up so I can keep that team busy. Then I can jump back to the work cell queue. If I want to know more details on things that are in process, for example, I can jump straight to the task details from this page, and I can see, okay, this got started this morning at 7:52, but it's not yet done. Here's the drawing for what that person is doing. And then I can follow the breadcrumbs back to that work cell Kanban. So the work cell Kanban is really my dashboard as a shop manager for me to see everything that's going on, either the work order or the work cell. If I want to work at a work order level or at a task level, either one of those two gives me complete visibility, and being able to quickly jump to the work order or jump to the task lets me control the shop without having to walk the floor to check everything all the time. Now, the teams out on the floor have their own view. That's the work cell queue. And here we can say, which work cell are we interested in? And if I go to nesting, there's only one task for the nesting work cell right now. They can pull that up. They can see any drawing that is associated with it. If there were MAJ files or other types of details, PCF files, anything else that was associated with this task would be linked in here, and they could download those, upload it into CamDuct, and take off from there in getting that nesting finished. They could then link the nest. They could upload the nest for the cutting steps, so they would automatically follow along with that task. Okay, I think we've got a QA question here. Let me jump to that. Marina, what's the question that we have?
Brandon asked, is the workflow through the shop floor done custom per customer? So I think what they're asking is these work cell layouts how are they customized for each customer?
That is an excellent question. And what I showed you earlier was a predefined template. It is customer specific. The answer is yes, they are always customer specific. You can manually build up a bill of process for an item. Let me talk just quickly about how to do that, and then I'm going to show you how to predefine them again on a per customer basis. If I go back to that work request, and let's see, do I have any that, here's one that's just been approved. If it doesn't have a bill of process yet for each of these assemblies, yeah, this one does. But if it doesn't, I can pull up my list of tasks. This is your list of tasks that you've entered into the system at whatever level of granularity you want to track time at. Keep in mind, every time you create a task, somebody's got to start and stop that thing. So you don't want to go crazy and make 1,000 of these. Everybody out on the shop floor would be pressing start and stop all day long. But you want to have enough granularity that you can analyze the work that is being done in the shop and be able to use it to forecast future work. It's easy to make changes to this over time. We work a lot with customers to kind of optimize their list of standard tasks. This one's got probably 40 or 50. that you can just drag and drop in to form the bill of process, and then you can define the predecessor relationships yourself. So you can do that manually on a per assembly basis. But if you had to do that for every assembly in every work request, you would be doing a lot of manual bill of process creation all day long. So whenever you have a standard thing, there's two ways to get it into the parts catalog. And one way is to say, just add this item to the catalog. So just by floating over this one, I've already planned out. Let's say I planned it out manually. I can say I want to save this to my to a catalog, and you can make your own catalogs here. We have a lot of customers that have customer specific catalogs. So if you do a lot of AWS data centers, you might have an AWS catalog in there that only has the parts and the material that's relevant to them. But I can pick a catalog, pick a category, and then give it a name. So custom spool process, and then save that to the catalog. Now, where this ends up, if I go to shop setup, I have a catalog set up, and again, I can choose which catalog I want to work with. The categories are like a folder structure for how I navigate through this, and I can start to assign attributes so we can specify content that's in these categories. You're going to see a lot more about this next month as we release some new stuff. But if I look at spool templates here, here's those same spool templates that we looked at earlier that I inserted into the work request. If I open one of those up, like this duct rectangular no insulation, here's the properties and the description of this thing, but what I really care about is the editor, and here is your custom process. Those same bill of process steps that I did a drag and drop on to plan out a work request are shown graphically here as a flow chart. So in this customer's process, it starts with a nesting work cell. And the purpose of the nesting work cell is to take the 5 MAJ files for the different spools, merge them together, and then separate the straight duct that I want to run to the coil line from the fittings that I want to run to the plasma table. Whatever process you use, you would create here. And then it's going to go on to a bending and seaming work cell and on to assembly. But you make these yourself. So you can just, again, open up that same task drawer. You can drag and drop task into here. And then you can just draw arrows in between them like any flowchart tool. And that's your bill of process. The nice thing about having in the catalog is you don't have to plan stuff manually all day long. Plan it once, save it to the catalog, and just reuse it from there. It makes it really fast. In our experience with these new features that we've added over the last few weeks, you should be able to plan a work request with half a dozen spools in it, or an electrical context, maybe 40 or 50 spools in it, with drawings in 5 to 10 minutes. Once you start getting a good process for how you're getting your drawings into the drawing register and how you're structuring those, once you get a little bit of parts catalog content created, again, it only takes a few minutes to plan those spools. So that's the quick update. So again, to summarize, we've made some good improvements for how we can jump back and forth between data. One of my favorites, if I go back to the project context, is definitely this quick and easy way of, if I want to look something up while I'm working on my work request, I can just open up the view configuration, the ability to load these drawings directly into the system. Oh, by the way, if you didn't notice, out of Revit, there's a direct publish into this drawing register, and that Revit, the electrical and mechanical add-ons that we have on top of Revit, will automatically add a QR code onto this sheet. If I scan this with a phone, it's going to tell me whether that's the most current version of this sheet or not. Huge benefit. And if I scan it with our app, we have Android and iOS apps. It will tell you which tasks are associated with this drawing in the shop. and allow you to start and stop the time directly from there. So that's definitely some of my favorite things. And then the other stuff that I really love, starting to sound like Amber. So many things I love in here now. The other thing I think is really cool is from the work cell view, that open up the facility, that it loads much faster now. And the fact that I can use these hyperlinks to jump back and forth and try to get more details, like what's going on with this work order. Okay, I can see all those details now. None of that has started. Jump back to the Kanban view, jump into a task detail and see what's going on with that task. Has it started? What's the drawings that are associated with it? What work needs to be performed to get this done? Other questions?
We have
Yeah, I
another
see.
one here.
Go
It
ahead.
says, can you take measurements of objects, skids, racks, etc. on a 3D viewer with the MAJ that gets uploaded?
Yes, I don't know if I have models loaded into this project, but let me take a look here. I'll jump to the drawing register, load up this project. And darn, I do not have a model, but this is the Autodesk Forge viewer. So I can load models. I should have a drawing. Let me take another quick look in one of these folders. Oh yeah. We can load the models up into here, and it's got the Forge viewer measurement features for being able to pull dimensions. Other questions? Anything else for now, Marina?
That's all, but please, folks, go ahead and use the Q&A function if there's anything you'd like to shoot to Clay. And great, looks like we got one in.
Okay, fire away.
Oliver here asks, is it possible to fill the quantities using the BOM from the Revit model,
Okay,
particularly when using Evolve Electrical?
yeah, you're going to love the webinar that we do next month because it's going to be all about that. That is not in the product right now, but it is about to be. We are in testing on that functionality now. So you can publish from the Revit products into our takeoff and bill of materials system. And you can filter that by locations. So I can say, I want building A, and let's see, you can create your own location structure in Foresight, and you can map it to locations in Revit. So I can say, I want to see only the content that is in these locations. And it will start to filter this by location, and it can also filter it by work phase. So you can say, give me the third floor, zone B, rough-in quantities, and it will show me these. And pretty soon you'll be able to map these directly to the work requests, and it will start doing quantity accounting for you. It will track how many quantities you have assigned. So when you're planning, you're doing your 3-week look ahead planning, you can go to the locations that you're going to be working on, go to the work phase that you're going to be working in, and you can track that you've assigned 100% of the quantities that are associated with that. So that's a little bit of foreshadowing. We'll be going in deep on that topic in about a month. But the final pieces that we needed to get that whole workflow connected, from modeling our Bluebeam takeoff, our Excel, by the way, 3 different ways of taking off data, merging it together into a takeoff, getting it into a BOM as a single source of truth, filtering that by location and work phase, and mapping it to a work request. All that stuff is almost ready. Just a bit on shop setup for those of you that didn't attend some of the previous webinars just to quickly talk about how we do that. Again, that takes us about an hour. And there's 2 steps. The first thing is we just create a list of your work cells. If all your stuff is on wheels and you move it around based on the type of things that are coming in that week, we can create multiple configurations for your shop. For each configuration, you have a series of work cells. And we work on your standard task list. Those are those tasks that you saw me drag and drop to form the bill of process. We map those together as the final step. So create your work cells, create your task, and then drag and drop the task to map them. These are already mapped, so I won't drag those over, but that's the process for how that's done. And we can see which tasks are associated with which work cell. That's how the system knows which queue to put things in. Those assemblies, whether it's a spool or a panel or a rack, whatever it is, has bill of process steps. And this tells the system where those bill of process steps have to get executed. So you set this up one time only, and then it'll automatically control the routing to the queues. You can predefine those bill of processes again in the catalog. And then it becomes really fast and easy to plan and manage your work. All right, let me foreshadow some other stuff that's just about to come out. We're still doing a little bit of debugging, so we weren't ready to show that yet today, but they're actually almost done. This one actually is done. It's waiting for approval from the Apple and Google Play app stores. So again, we have Android and iOS apps. They're available now. We test them on the kind of hardware you'd want to have in the shop, not the $1,000 iPads, but the $200 iPad, the $100 Android devices. It performs well on both of those. And we have phone format and also tablet format. And the new version that is coming out on Monday has got the drawing viewer working inside of those mobile devices. So we're really happy that we've got this updated mobile app. So again, you can scan a QR code if it's a paper drawing and start and stop the time from there, or fully digital workflow. You can just open it up in the viewer on those devices. So either way, either process will work. We talked quite a bit about the Kanban view versus the table view for work requests and work cells. We're about to add a third mode, which is a calendar view. So you'll notice here was the table view, here's that Kanban view, here is a calendar mode, and you can choose whether you want to see months, weeks, or days. You'll see all the stuff that you have planned for each one of those. And we've got a report engine. So if you're familiar with report engines like Crystal Reports was the old one everyone used back in the day. This is a modern report engine that is fully embedded in the web system. So there's no local install. You can drag and drop to create your own reports. Charts and graphs are available in there, and all the data that we have in the system is exposed to the report engine. So our ability to generate automatic reports and do some basic types of analytics are in there, well, almost in there. This report engine I expect to be out by the end of next week. So if you want to start a trial, this will be there by the time you get started. Same thing for the calendar view. We're expecting that to wrap up by the end of next week, and the mobile app should be in the store on Monday. Really happy with this new calendar view. I think this is going to be hugely beneficial for a lot of our customers. And of course, this report engine is going to be a game changer in many ways. So other questions? Marina, do we have any other questions?
We do. John asks, is there a current roadmap to integrate a purchasing or procurement module into Foresight to track BOMs or material releases against purchase orders?
Yes. So let's see, how deep do we want to go on that today? I talked a little bit about, I go back to the design module and open up my takeoff or my BOM. Oh, I'm in a facility, not in a project here. Open up the project. Oh, you'll see that there was a hint there already. Requisitions. This will be coming up in a few months. I don't know, the minimum of 2 months. We should be able to get it out the door in 3. But I talked earlier about how we can take these items. You don't have to filter it by location, but we think, of course, you would. Most planning is done by location. A lot of the detail planning is done on some kind of look ahead cadence. You would filter for your location and your work phase. And the assignment is going to be either to a work request or to a requisition, regardless of whether you're fabricating the items or you're buying it from a supplier. We'll be able to track it here. And so we really think that this BOM is going to become the key management tool for project teams. The BOM is going to be the single source of truth that reflects the scope for the entire project. It can all be filtered by location and work phase. And then the items are sent either to a work request or to a requisition, and the system will do the accounting to see if there's anything that you need for that location and that work phase that you haven't assigned either to a work request or to a requisition. So again, there'll be a lot more of that coming out on the next webinar, where we start talking about how the takeoff and BOM system integrate, how we get data in from Revit, how we get data in from Bluebeam. That'll be the focus on those. And then the subsequent month or 2, we will add in the requisition process into that as well. Okay, so we'll continue to take questions, but I did want to summarize a bit what we focus on. Of course, there's 1,000 things that hundreds of things we've already done in the app, or the app can do today, thousands of things that we want to add over time. But we focus more than anything on ease of deployment. You need a really fast deployment process. When we talk to customers, they tell us we just can't take a week out of our schedule or multiple weeks to get something configured and deployed. We focus on that single day deployment. We focus on a training time that's anywhere from 20 minutes for project teams or work cell teams, up to a maximum of 2 to 3 hours for shop management personnel. Trying to stick with low cost. We've got a significant R&D investment, but only charging $50 a user per month. It really helps us hit that low cost target. And we've tried to, pun intended, create a system that can evolve with you. You can start with no parts catalog content at all. So very little configuration work. As you plan items, you can just save them to the parts catalog, and the system gets more automated over time. You can also start to layer in more aspects of it. You can start with a shop only, and then layer in the shop in the field, then pull in pre-con and VDC, and then start to add more and more functions that you're doing with the Foresight module. We try to align our development schedule to that as well. So the first thing we build are the things that are the easiest to deploy, where you can start getting value out of the system immediately. And then we starting to add more and more sophisticated functionality over time. For the trial, there's no cost. We'll set you up for a month for field teams and for the shop teams. We can do it virtually, or we come to your site. We've got an onboarding session going on today. We're doing a lot of those coast to coast now. We'll help you, walk you through the process to get the system set up and ready. Train the team. Again, that takes about 5 or 6 hours total, and get you up in production on a couple of projects by that first afternoon. And then we start having a couple of short phone calls a week just to provide support, answer any questions that you have, take requests. Most of our product roadmap is being driven by customer requests from either our customers or from people that are on the trial. If you'd like to participate in the trial, please follow the form here. If you feel like it's not a good fit for you, shoot me an email. Let me know why. We're collecting information about what more we need to do, what directions we need to head. I'd love to hear your feedback on that. Any other questions? Oh, okay. Marina, I see that a question that comes up saying, are you required to have a license for each foreman and each shop user? No, it's not required. I'll tell you what most of our customers decide to do is they get a dedicated license for shop management. So the foreman or shop manager, sometimes one or two lieutenants or coordinators, depending on how big your shop is and how big your company is. And then they get one license per work cell. You don't have to have that, but if you don't, the foremen have to enter the start and stops themselves. And if you have one per work cell, they can access by a mobile device or by a laptop, big screen or not. They can enter that time themselves. So most customers, we see anywhere from 5 to 15 licenses for a shop, and then 1 to 2 licenses per field team. All right, last call for questions. We will wrap up after that. If anybody has any last questions, happy to answer. All right, Marina, are we done for now?
All set. Thank you, Clay, and thank you to everyone who attended today.
Yes.
We'll make
Or go ahead, sorry.
No worries. Yep. We'll make sure to follow up with the recording and make sure to keep up with us on LinkedIn and YouTube so you can catch all of our upcoming events.
Yes, as Marina said, thanks for your time today. Looking forward to hearing from you and having you in the next webinar when we do the next update.